How about we take a look at the Week 9 games in Fredericksburg area high school football. Taft, I don't believe that there are any games that have more implications or more intrigue to me, storylines certainly, than a 7-0 Massaponax squad visiting a 6-1 Mountain View team. Mountain View coming off that loss just this past week to Brook Point. Tell me I'm wrong.
I wish I could, but I can't tell you you're wrong. I mean, this schedule is not the most appetizing schedule you're going to see, and this game clearly stands out from the rest of them. If you look at the full slate, it's, no doubt this is the marquee game of the week.
Yeah, it's almost as though all of the other games have sort of stepped back to let this one take center stage. A matchup of two area 5A teams. They are at the top of the 5A North conference standings for playoffs. Lots and lots of storylines going on here. Ponax with 30 consecutive regular season victories. Mountain View had been 6-0. Their first loss was just this past Friday against Brook Point. How do you see this one playing out?
It's going to be a very, very interesting game. Traditionally, since Lou Sorrentino's been at Mountain View, he's had some success, or more success than other coaches, in figuring out a way to help defend that triple option offensive attack. So between him and his defensive staff, it seems like that's an offense that he's seen before, and he's able to come up with something to kind of keep it under control. So we'll see if that holds true this week.
We have seen now that Massaponax certainly has threats and weapons on the offensive side. That was maybe a question mark coming in. Actually, honestly, it was more on the offensive line, but they have certainly been able to dominate. Offensively, they have looked quite good. So the Ponax offense versus the Mountain View defense should be interesting. You mentioned that Sorrentino has a little more success against that triple option than some other teams. How about on the other side of the ball, though, the Mountain View offense against the Massaponax defense?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting as well. Mountain View has a very diverse offense. They're able to stretch the field vertically, and if you look at some of this times Massaponax has struggled defensively, has been against the pass. So if they're able to get Trey Coghill and Brandon White, some of those guys to stretch them vertically, there could be some big plays to be had there.
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. I don't know that any of us really have the answer, the blueprint, as it were, for beating this Massaponax squad, but it does seem as though maybe some quick strikes, some long strikes, which more than not, Massaponax has been vulnerable to those sorts of things, not on the ground but through the air. It's not a ball control, try to win it. It's trying to get into a track meet here almost. And Mountain View has, outside of last week, been able to put up some big numbers offensively.
Yeah, the question for Mountain View is, I mean, before last week they hadn't played very many physical teams. They played one last week and they kind of took a step back a little bit. Now they're playing another physical team, maybe a more physical team than Brook Point. It'll be interesting to see if they're able to meet that physical challenge and able to also get their playmakers involved.
So, do you want to call the game? I won't put you on the spot if you don't want to, but feel free if you'd like.
Well, I mean, I have no problem saying I believe that Massaponax will be a little bit too physical for Mountain View in this game, and I think Massaponax will come away with the victory.
Yeah, and I would tend to agree. I think probably Ponax is going to be my favorite to win this game as well. What does this mean, though? What does a win? What do you think a win means for either of these teams? What do you think a loss means for either of these teams?
I don't think it means the end of the world for either of these teams, and I don't think it's going to make either of these teams' season to win the game, because you still have Brook Point out there, you still have North Stafford out there at 5A North, you still have Tuscarora, you still have a bunch of other good teams out there. I mean, either of these teams could win or lose this game and bounce back just fine.
Outstanding point. I agree perfectly. We didn't plan that, by the way, but that was what I was hoping that you were going to say. So these are two teams that clearly have they've secured playoff spots. There's no doubt about that. Where they will be in the playoffs, positioning is still left to be determined. But these are teams that certainly have the ability and I think the aspiration of going deeper into the playoffs. Making the playoffs isn't going to satisfy at least their primary goal. It might be an initial goal, but it's not the primary goal. So while this is a big game, it's not the biggest game that these teams are going to be playing this season.
Because if you put too much into this game and then you come back like a Massaponax will with a North Stafford the following week and a Brook Point to end the season, if you put too much into one game, it can hurt you. Kind of similar to what we saw with Chancellor and putting so much into that Cortland game, and then they had to play JM at the end of the week. It can hurt you. So.
Both very well-coached teams, Sorrentino, Ludden. Well, this is just, I'm really excited to see how this one plays out. It should be a very exciting game. I certainly hope it will be. We've got some other great games that are on the docket here as well. We certainly know that there are a lot of fans for these schools. Certainly hope that you're able to get out this Friday. Hope the weather's good for you and you're able to catch a great Fredericksburg area high school football game.